Greetings again, friends. It's part 2 of our live streams tonight. We're going to be talking about the Trump tax plan that he mentioned. Before this, we were talking about BRICS Pay and the unit token ecosystem that's going to be used by BRICS and all that. That was fantastic. But anyways, I wanted to talk really briefly with you guys about Trump's sort of musings on his tax plan there, because I just thought it was so unusual. Now, first off, before we talk about this, we have to go to the sort of in a black pill mode, right? Because, was Trump presidency number 1 perfect? No. Is Trump perfect? No. Do people promise things to get elected and then not do them? Yes. So we have to kind of keep that in mind, that what we're going to talk about is not so much that Trump will do it because he's a good person or whatever. No. Not that. Just, it was a very interesting theory that he's been throwing around right before the election campaign. Maybe this is something that he knows will be appealing to some people and put people over put people over the line, or maybe it's sort of too late to change his mind because the election is so soon. Who knows? But in the United States, from what I understand, we don't have one of those laws where you have to be quiet about an election for a certain period of days before it begins. And the other part is, since we have, kind of 50 different electoral systems in the United States, the voting in North Carolina already started a while ago, and I think Michigan as well. So weird setup, 50 different systems, but what can you do? That's the way it is for now. Actually, one thing that Trump should probably deal with in his presidency, if he were able to win, would be some sort of campaign finance reform or electoral reform or something. That would probably be a good idea, but again, we'll see. So, what did Trump say that got me excited? So excited that even though I do a podcast that's usually about Russian perspective on things, I'm going to make an exception and talk about something that is 100% American. Is that he first kind of came out with this whole thing about wanting to create crazy tariffs on stuff, like 100% tariffs on Chinese cars and a lot of different other products from China. And that's nuts, Well, then again, if we want to talk about Russia, despite the fact that Russia and China have a good relationship, I think the tariff on Chinese cars in Russia is 100%. So, that also depends kind of how you see the world. So for Trump, a 100% tariff on Chinese vehicles would be a blow against the Chinese Communist Party. And in Russia, it's more just like, we are sorry, friends. You have great country. Panda rice is amazing, but we need to sell Lada. Sorry. Sorry. Excuse me. I need to do my fake accent better. So anyways, just a little interesting way to sort of look at the world. So punishment for one man's punishment is another man's pleasure, depending on how you look at things, or act of friendship. But anyways, getting back to our topic here, he mentioned, massive tariffs on this, that, and the other. And rightfully so, finally, because I've been watching a lot of, let's just say, the other side of the line in America, a lot of MSNBC clips, just to punish myself recently. And I can tell you one thing, my friends. They were right to criticize Trump over this tariff thing, because if you take that comment just sort of out of context, that's a terrible idea. Because usually whenever you raise taxes or do anything that increases the cost of especially everyday goods, this is beyond just cars, right? You increase the cost of everyday goods. Who eventually winds up having to pay for it? The masses. The working masses pay for everything. Whether you want to call these people like proletarians or the peasantry or normies, that's up to you. I don't really see much distinction between these terms, but whatever. The normies have to pay for it, okay? And so that sounds like something that you say to, you go up on stage just like, I wish I could do a good Trump impression, but we need to do tariffs. We've got to do the tariffs, with that weird cadence he has. And just to, he wants to kind of, what is it? I forgot the expression. I think it's a Russian one about spiting your face to whatever. Anyways, he's going to shoot himself in the foot because you cannot just put insane tariffs on imports and expect America to go back to the good old days when George Washington was still alive and, really focus on tariffs, because it's just going to cause essentially the death of what's left of the middle class, right? So finally, Mika Brzezinskaya, or she's Brzezinski in English, Brzezinskaya in Russian. Finally, her cackling and anger that she has towards everything related to Trump, she made a very valid point that tariffs would be very harmful to the average American. But then Trump kind of put it, and he turned on his, again, end the Fed mode. And if someone's just tuning in now, yes, I know that if Trump comes in and says, hey, I want to end the Fed, that's good marketing. Whether there's even a grain of truth to that statement, who the hell knows? But I can tell you one thing. Trying to do that is going to be one hell of a task. One hell of a task. So Trump, essentially, his plan, which is interesting. I don't think it's very possible to do, but is interesting then, is with the caveat of we're going to do tons of tariffs, but then we're going to get rid of the federal income tax. And what is going to happen there, I think, again, armchair quarterback mode, because I'm not an economist, is it kind of creates this situation where, yeah, people are going to be paying a lot, essentially, for their goods, but at the same time, it finally gives, like, the American worker, the, or entrepreneur, the chance to actually compete with China and Malaysia and Indonesia and Mexico and all those other things. Very interesting. And really, remember, too, whereas with your income tax, you're getting taxed, especially in the Western countries, to death based on everything you earn. But when you have tariffs, it's kind of based on the stuff you buy. You see? And that's a good thing. That's why one thing in Russia, the taxes are really low, but the VAT tax on value added, something is the T, I forgot. Maybe it's the T's for tax. Value added tax is VAT, but the VAT is pretty high because the punishment is on the spending side, rather than on the earning side. Okay? And so that is kind of cool. And especially, it also encourages people to do things, let's just say, in cash, because in an economy, right, where your income tax is with a big hose that sucks the life out of everyone. Everything you earn gets that huge chunk taken out of it, right? But if you go to this whole taxes come from crazy tariffs, I mean, yeah, you're not going to be able to buy a new electric car from the Amish. But if you do go to the Amish and start buying food from them and kind of paying in cash and everything's under the table, then you're saving a ton of freaking money, So it's just interesting. It's an interesting concept because, again, it harkens back to the good old days when the Constitution was young and fresh, and America for some time was able to make a lot of money, based on tariffs. But someone could argue that if you go back in time to the way America was when it was 13 states that became 13 colonies and started to grow, well, that was a different universe. And the United States was very dependent on imports because it didn't have much of its own, local production. Nothing compared to like the late 1800s or mid 20th century. So in some ways, if you kind of think about it, well, we're kind of in that situation a little bit again, not because America is small or isolated or new, but because we've been effed over so much that so much of everything we have to, use on a daily basis is imported, right? It's almost like for very different reasons, we're in that sort of mode, again, that sort of position of surviving on imports. And who knows, maybe this whole thing of using tariffs could be something. I think it's an interesting concept. It's a concept that's worth taking the time to analyze. And if for some reason Trump sees some sort of excuse to kind of end the Fed, as they say in quotes, well, more power to him. But again, could he ever actually get this done? I don't know, guys. There's a lot of people who've gone to Washington with big dreams, and it's all been crushed. I don't know how realistic it is, but I do think that it's a very interesting concept. Is it something worth voting over? Like, if you were on the fence, would that be something worth voting over? I don't know, because it's like I said, it's so unlikely to ever be possible. I think, I don't know. I don't know what to even say about that one. Let's see. Do you have any questions in the chat? Remember, you can write a message anywhere, and they all appear in one location. That's called the chat. I'm referring to Tim Kirby Rush Hardcore on Telegram. Do you have any call-ins on this issue? No. Okay. Well, anyways, so basically, that was all I wanted to really talk about today on this live stream. Again, normally we want to focus on Russia and not just talk about Trump this or Trump that, especially because I know many people who are subscribed to this channel here on Telegram were extremely disappointed by the first Trump presidency. So just because he promised something that sounds really good, but is probably the hardest thing to deliver in terms of stuff he's promised. Like, what has Trump promised? The wall. Well, there's some wall somewhere, and there's not some wall other places. And during his presidency, that didn't really work out. Kind of get the troops out of Syria and Iraq and all that stuff. Supposedly, he issued the orders, and supposedly the Pentagon just didn't do them. So, on some things that are maybe big, yet seemingly easier to get accomplished, he wasn't really able to get them done. So, I don't know about this whole completely changing the nature of the way taxation works in the United States. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, my friends. Who knows? But it's kind of a cool idea. And again, if we're going to wrap this in a big Russian blanket, because you watch this channel or listen to this channel, and I'm always shocked that people actually do, especially thousands of people. It's very weird. Definitely, we're not in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but we're definitely in the thousands here for every video, which is nuts, in my opinion. You come here for an interesting take on the way the world looks through Russia. And in some ways, I think we're kind of going into ping pong, because Russia was sort of forced to westernize. And I think why Russia is becoming, like, people are like, oh my God, it's like America in the 1950s. That's not really quite true. But I think Russia took sort of the best from America and got rid of the sort of wacky, over individualistic liberalism and shoved that away, but took a lot of, let's just say, ideas about taxation, ideas about business. That Russia took in real good. And it's kind of like bouncing back, because in a lot of ways, what Trump is sort of proposing here almost kind of looks like a Russification of taxation, with the costs really being put on the tax, or essentially the cost of buying stuff, especially foreign made stuff, as being a real bastion of your taxation, and not so much income, especially income from like small businesses and individual entrepreneurs, because everyone can get excited. You're like, well, Tim, you're paying like 4% tax, or someone's paying 6% income tax, and that's all they're paying because they have their own business. Yes. So I think some of the best practices, the best American practices that went to Russia, it's almost like Trump kind of wants to bring them back to America again. If you see, because I say this usually to kind of troll people and get a rise out of them by saying that Putin's the best Republican president Russia's ever had, or whatever, some kind of joke of that nature. But it's kind of true. I mean, when you talk about like the way his attitudes towards money and stuff, he really is a Republican candidate. And I think Mr. Mishustin, who is mostly responsible for the way taxation in Russia works now, and business and all that, and it's pretty well done. Those guys, they're all just basically using the old Republican playbook, modifying it to their own culture. It's sort of like Republican politics with Russian specifics. Or, yeah, that's it. Because isn't it, China has socialism. Oh, no, socialism with Chinese characteristics. So it's Republican politics with Russian characteristics. And perhaps that system is going to bounce back to America really soon. So, interesting. But again, that's a very loose, perhaps. Because again, guys, I am not so naive to think that anyone can go into Washington, click their fingers, and completely alter the way taxation works in the United States. That's going to require some magic, the will of God himself, the power of God himself. Yeah. Oh, my hand is raised. Oh, sorry. Your hand is raised. Yeah, come on in, Christopher. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I don't see Trump being able to do this. He'd need a complete majority of Republicans to push any of this
Yeah.
through. Yeah, however, replacing the federal income tax with either a 20% VAT or obnoxiously high tariffs would fix a major, major problem every American expat has living abroad.
Oh.
That's having to file taxes and deal with the rest of that complete nonsense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Something no other citizens other than citizens of Eritrea have to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I should point out that I believe that that country has some sort of like pseudo communistic system. So it's they make everyone pay for different reasons. No matter where you are, you're going to contribute, whether you like it or not, to great communism of Africa. But yes,
Well, they don't have any means of enforcing it.
yeah.
Actually, there's only 4 countries that have ever done citizenship-based taxation: the U.S., Eritrea, Nazi Germany, and the Soviet Union.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, who knows? As time goes on, we don't know where Russia's going to, but I don't think that they're going to do that. I think Russia's definitely seen that there's a benefit to Russians going all over the world and making a lot of business contacts, and especially coming back later. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, the taxation system in the United States is goofy, and if you watch a lot of videos about it, you can't really be too angry at people who did what they could in the time frame they lived. So that's like, Europeans love to be snobby about how the American electoral system is kind of weird and goofy. But think about how you'd build an electoral system with the only experience about elections being in your mind was maybe like the Roman system, which was completely insane. And you don't even have the telegraph machine. You have like pieces of paper, guy on horseback, you know. So you could kind of forgive him. And I think with the taxation thing is again if someone's going to point out that the whole Federal Reserve System and all that is illegal and was unconstitutional and shouldn't have happened. Maybe you're right, maybe you're wrong, but it's based on like 1913 logic of like a pre-telephone even world, and that logic is just gets more and more ridiculous. It really has to be rethought. Where you think about it in Russia, doing taxes, especially for an individual, not so much for a business. For business, you have to hire an accountant. But for an individual, it's so easy. And you don't even have to think about it.
No, the Federal Reserve System actually goes back to the first and second banks of the United States. Andrew Jackson killed the second bank of the United States and gave the U.S. about 100 years of freedom from financial repression.
Mm-hmm.
The Federal Reserve Act in 1913 was a reinstitution of that, creating a private central bank owned by all the banks in the U.S., together.
Yeah.
And all those banks were majority owned by a certain wealthy Jewish banking family whose name begins with an R.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So since 1913, the financial repression is back. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's why I really dislike President Woodrow Wilson.
Yeah.
He promised not to get us in World War I. He promised not to inflict an income tax on us, and he promised not to inflict a central bank on the U.S.
And he
did all three.
Well, then he's in a good company with Zelensky. They're cut from the same cloth, as it were. All right, well, Christopher, thank you very much for bringing that historical note up to my attention again. There might be a reason that Andrew Jackson gets so dumped on by a certain side of history. So, anyways, friends, it was good talking to you. And yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say. I just thought that was fascinating. It was a very exciting idea. But is it a practical idea? Nah. Anyways, talk to you soon. All these videos will be uploaded in the near future.